His actions of sex abuse went on for the duration of the school year, and he made nightly visits to me, but my brother would not cooperate. Instead, he ran to the window and he jumped.
Mental illness, alcohol, and substance abuse are still a problem on reserves today because of the trauma of the residential schools. Suicide is cause of about 40% of deaths among First Nations populations of Canada. These issues leave many First Nations communities impoverished. Because most elders no longer trust the Canadian school system, this cycle goes on because of the lack of proper education in these areas. The Canadian government committed to a mass cultural genocide through those years. Apologies were made, but how do you truly compensate for what most call the Canadian Holocaust?
I stand before you today to offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools. The treatment of children in Indian residential schools is a sad chapter in our history. Two primary objectives of the residential school system were to remove and isolate children from the influence of their home, families, traditions, and cultures, and to assimilate them into the dominant culture. These objectives were based on the assumption that Aboriginal cultures and spiritual beliefs were inferior and unequal. Indeed, some sought, as was infamously said, to kill the Indian in the child. Today we recognize that this policy of assimilation was wrong, has caused great harm, and has no place in our country. The Government of Canada built an educational system in which very young children were often forcibly removed from their homes, often taken far from their communities. Many were inadequately fed, clothed, and housed. All were deprived of the care and nurturing of their parents, grandparents, and communities. First Nations, Inuit, and Métis languages and cultural practices were prohibited in these schools. Tragically, some of these children died while attending residential schools, and others never returned home. The government now recognizes that the consequences of the Indian residential schools policy were profoundly negative.
The Mental Health Commission of Canada is a group that looks at the particular problem of intergenerational depression due to the residential schools. Their strategies include support groups and understandings of particular cultural elements by working with the communities. They enhance feelings such as belonging and encouraging good, healthy relationships and physical health, as well as early intervention within youth depression and strong support systems placed around communities. They have particularly had ongoing strategic conversations with the Assembly of the First Nations, and the Congress of Aboriginal People, and many others.
I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your